Well, hello there all you absolutely magnificent people, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays, where we talk about nature while playing games. My name is Will, I'm an ecologist by training, and we are back in Enshrouded here by our botanical gardens that we have created so far. Now, today is going to probably be the last video in Enshrouded for a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit of a break from Enshrouded and heading over to Windrose a bit, because, well, that is a very, very fun game, and I'm really getting into that. So I'm very keen to do a bit of a playthrough in that game as well, because, well, there are lots of interesting things we can chat about there. So today we are going to set off, and you can see here I've respec as a wizard following the latest update. I have respec as a wizard, and today we are going to head on over to the Blackmire Marshes once more, because, well, there are a few things I want to do there. And probably the most important thing to chat about is the fact that, well, the Blackmire Marshes and the Revelwood, the developers have really changed the way they look. Whereas both were basically very similar in appearance and the species composition, now they really are very distinct. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, I'm very keen about it, pardon the pun there. And it does feel very different. I mean, look at this, for example. This is very different. The thing is that my botanical gardens has developed in such a way, has been built in such a way that the Revelwood and the Blackmire Marshes kind of look the same. However, now, look at this. We've got a tree with old man's beard hanging down it, which, well, we didn't have before, and we cannot craft these trees yet. We do also have new dirt, the Blackmire Marsh dirt here, which is very interesting and very mossy in appearance. But we have got things like these tree ferns here. And we never had tree ferns in the game here, yet now we do have them. We've got these trees I mentioned with the old man's beard, the lichens hanging down from them. Again, we did not have that before. And suddenly, now we have. And also in the Revelwood, where it is currently raining, things are looking very different as well. The trees, it feels like they are actually a little bit sparser, and they've been replaced largely. Instead of all these big basswood trees, we now have things like these willow trees over here, which we never had before. They really just popped up randomly now. They're also found in the springland areas, but we still can't craft them, unfortunately. I would love to have one of these weeping willows next to the river, for example, in our botanical gardens. Now, the very weird thing, or the cool thing about willow is, of course, that willow bark is a natural source of aspirin. And aspirin, of course, helps with things like headaches. And for me, I just find it very interesting. And I can just imagine a person with a massive headache getting so frustrated he bit into a willow tree and thought, you know what, it feels kind of better. Let me gnaw on this a little bit more. Also, the appearance of the leaves here, of the undergrowth, of the ground layer here, it's also very different. You now have a lot of leaves lying around. This is now the first time that the Revelwood floor, the forest floor here, looks very different from the Blackmire Marsh forest floor. Now, of course, with this change, the ambience of the Revelwood here has also changed. So, yeah, it's very interesting to actually see a change in the species composition, giving off such a very different vibe. Whereas previously, the Revelwood to me felt very much like a subtropical forest. Now, I don't know what it feels like a little more open woodland type of environment. Yes, very wet, because we've got a lot of willow trees here, and they do love growing in wet areas. I mean, yeah, you can see here it is still raining, so it's a very wet area still. But species composition has really changed. Now, let's just head on over to the Blackmire Marshes again. And let's just go have a look at the soil we've got here, as well as the old man's beard I did see here on the trees as well. Now, the old man's beard, yeah, that's really giving a lot more marshy vibes. And you'll have a look, yeah, look at that. Just coming up here. Hello, Hornet. You guys should still be friendly with me. Yeah, you guys are still fine. So the wasps are still fine with me because I have got calm spirit. But yeah, the old man's beard right over there, the things dangling from the branches here. Now, they would most likely be in the Usnea genus, and they're not a plant per se, they are lichens. And lichens are awesome symbiotic relationships between algae and fungi. It can also be between fungi and cyanobacteria, also known as blue-green algae, but they are actually bacteria, not algae. And they are called blue-green algae because, well, they can also photosynthesize, similar to algae. Now, they're called old man's beard because you can see there, they kind of look like an old man's beard hanging from the tree branches there. Now, they actually used medicinally, I know by the First Nations in America, they were used to treat deep wounds because they've got antimicrobial properties, which is of course something nice to know. I mean, that's a nice medicinal plant right up there. Now, I mentioned that there are actually algae and fungi living together. The fungi provide the structure of the old man's beard here, and the algae photosynthesize. And then of course the algae, during photosynthesis, they will produce a lot of sugars, and they'll give some of the sugars there to the fungi. Because the fungi, well, they can't photosynthesize, they can't produce their own food. They are dependent then on the algae for actually producing sugars for them. A really, really cool thing to find. Now, I do also love the fact that we have got them in the swamps here, because it does mean that the air over here is in fact very, very clean, because Old Man's Beard is very susceptible to pollution. Now, of course, I mean, what pollution do we have here in this non-industrialized world here in Embervale? But I mean, we do have fires and things like that, so yeah, that could in fact be a kind of a source of pollution. But yeah, here in the Blackmire Marshes, the air here seems very clean, and as a result we have a lot of the Old Man's Beard growing on many of the trees here. We also do have these tree ferns. I mean, these are magnificent. We would love to have tree ferns in our garden. However, it's very difficult to get hold of the indigenous species we have here in South Africa. It's easy to get hold of some of the Australian species, Sahathia australis, for example, but Sahathia capensis, the Cape tree fern, we simply cannot get a hold of that. They're very difficult, it seems, to cultivate, and as a result, they're not easily available. Now, the reason we want the indigenous species rather than the exotic one is because, well, the Australian one around here spreads very easily, and they are able to spread into the natural environment. And of course, we don't want that. We don't want to be responsible for, oh, there we go, losing like 80% of our health. We don't want to be responsible for an invasive species actually establishing in our natural environments. So we don't want to plant the exotic one in our garden. Overall, with the changes brought in to the Blackmire Marshes, oh hello, we are going to just be under attack by these horrible little plants here. The crocodiles, the Snapjaws, they should be fine with us because, again, calm spirit. We'll see in a moment, but I think they are. Overall, the ambiance has really, really changed, which yeah, to some extent, the Revelwood feels a little bit weirder to me, but the Blackmire Marshes feels much more like a proper marsh. Oh, we're really stuck in the tar there. Oh no, oh no, 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 no. Okay. Wow. They changed the tar. They changed the tar as well. Right. That tar is a lot more sticky than it used to be. Oh man, you gotta love it. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to come to the Blackmire Marshes here is because we do have some quests that we can complete. The first one is to actually get a dagger for Valerie the Bard, and that should be right down here somewhere. Pretty sure. Now, this time around, I'm going to try, and not end up in tar, because apparently they have really changed that. Now, the mud here, that should still be fine. This is still, got a fright there from the Snapjaw. This is still fine. Have they changed the way these Snapjaws look? They look a little bit greener to me now, which I guess does fit in very well. They definitely look greener. It fits well with the new dirt we have here. It would provide them with a bit more camouflage, especially if they were to lie over here, basking in the sun perhaps. Well, not that there's sun shining down this spot at the moment, but they would need to be camouflaged. I mean, that green that we see there is very similar to the green we have right over here of the new Blackmire Marsh soil. So yeah, I guess they changed the color. Well, maybe they didn't, but it's just my imagination. Maybe it's the Mandela effect, the fact that I believe that the Snapjaws actually were a different color and now they are greener in color. Anyway, we came here to collect the daggers here, and there we go. Valerie apparently slew one of these Snapjaws here. Oh, and we did also level up. That is marvelous. But there are two more reasons we came here, and one again is for Valerie. And that will be to actually get her musical instruments. I think it's a hand drum that is, I think, at the top of that tree over there. Right over there, I think it is. We need to defend one of the brawlers up there, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And the other one is to get the carpenter's Aunt Braylon, I think, is somewhere here in the Blackmire Marshes. So we're just going to quickly go have a look for her. Oh no.
A few minutes later.
Okay, you know what? Stuff it. I am going over to the big tree over there. I'm going to try to get the hand drums because, well, I have died twice now in the tar trying to get to Aunt Braylon, and not even where she is, just going through the first hidden temple. I've died twice now in very quick succession, so I'm leaving her for now. I will get Aunt Braylon at some point off screen, I think. But for now, we are heading over to the big tree, to the Vukah village. Okay, there we go. Just going to hopefully avoid these little critters, these plants. Okay, yes, we are at the Vukah settlement. Perfect. Now we just need to avoid the projectiles coming our way. Now luckily, the majority of the Vukah here will be friendly with me because, again, I've got Vukah language, which means that I'm able to move through here quite easily. Right, we've made it into the Vukah settlement here. Now we just need to make our way to the top. I really love the fact that the Vukah, over the decades or centuries or who knows, maybe even millennia, they have hollowed out the inside of this tree. And you may be wondering, well, why hasn't the tree just filled up the gaps here? Now that's because what we have here is actually dead wood. So it's the inside of the tree, it is the hardwood of the tree, and well, that consists of dead tissue. So because it isn't living tissue anymore, it really wouldn't heal on the inside. At least that's the way most dicotyledonous trees would work. They wouldn't be healing the inside of the tree. In some cases, some species like oaks may actually be attacked by certain fungi that will decompose the inside, in essence break it down, resulting in the tree having a kind of a hollow trunk. And you may think, well, that's bad. But in some cases, that actually helps protect them against storms. So that when strong winds blow, instead of being broken apart by the strong or the harsh winds, they're a little bit more flexible and bendy in the strong winds. Not that I think even the strongest of winds experienced in the Blackmire Marshes would be able to bend this massive tree that they have built their home in. But you never know, you never know, eh? Now, unfortunately for us and that Brawler over there, we are going to have to take down the Brawler. Let's see, how does a fireball do? A little bit. Oh, that's bad. Okay, that's bad. We have to take out the shamans, unfortunately. That one's on fire and dead. I do love a good old fireball here. Haha, not today, little one. Okay. Unfortunately, we had to topple the Vukah Brawler. But this will allow us to actually now get the hand drums. The hand drums should be right through here, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there it is. Yay. Let's have a look. What is down there? Is that the Vale Water Basin? No, the Vale Water Basin is sitting right over here. So that is still unknown lands. We are unable to go and explore those areas. Oh, that could be the ocean. It does look as though there is a bit of a... like the land drops down there, and this vast expanse here could be the ocean. I'm not sure. I'm not that clued up on the lore, but if you look at where we are, we've got a massive marshy environment here. Now that indicates that it's probably lower lying areas. Water is accumulating in this area, and it's stagnant for long periods of time. Down there, it could be almost like a delta. But the thing is, with the shroud, it has spread via the waterways as well. In all the areas where there was water before, well, not all the areas, we've got lakes nowadays, but where there were rivers or big systems like that, we do now have, well, the shroud covering it here. So I think that what we have down there could be the ocean. I'm going to place my bets on that is the ocean biome right over there. Now, whether we're ever going to see that in the base game at least, who knows? Maybe one day we'll see it in a DLC. But I don't know whether we'll be able to see the ocean biome in the full release of the game. We'll see soon enough. Of course, the floating mountains over there, those are going to come out in the full release, which is, I think, in a few months' time. I'm really looking forward to that. As mentioned, I'm going to take a bit of a break from Enshrouded for a bit now. I'm going to carry on building my botanical gardens, expanding that a bit, reconsider how I'm going to make the Revelwood and the Blackmire Marsh environments there. May need to do a few tweaks there as well. But when the time comes then with a full release, I will return and I will then officially do quite a bit of things in the game here and carry on a little bit more. But we're not done for the day yet. We're not done yet. We do need to put some birds in our botanical garden. So let's go and do that, shall we? So let's have a look and see if we can first find some flightless redtails. Now, there should be some in the general area. I'm not sure whether there are any around here. The light is fading, however. And there we go, there are some right down there. Okay. Now, the thing is, they are very skittish. So I'm going to have to be careful about this. I'm going to have to be almost as cautious as they are. And there we go, we got our first one. Now, of course, they do occur in flocks, so we will need more than just one. Like with the June armadillos, we're going to try and grab the whole family group here. That'll actually be 5 individuals. That's a lot of them. Unfortunately, the nighttime is here. Nonetheless, we did get a second one. Let's just first go home, and then we will come back for the remaining 3. Of course, after this, we are going to try and get, I think it's called the round-billed sailor, which is also a really funky, awesome bird. But they seem to occur in smaller flocks than the flightless redtails. So we're going to use most of our bait on the flightless redtails here. Now, I don't know whether we'll be able to actually get the whole flock, though, because there are some saber-toothed cats in the area, and, well, the flightless redtails are definitely on the menu for those cats. So that's potentially going to be a bit of a problem, but let's see. There's just this one and its sibling, I think, on the other side there left. Now, they do seem to prefer these taller grasslands here. It does provide them with some cover. However, it also at the same time provides their predators with cover to actually ambush them or to creep up to them. So being flightless is kind of a problem, I think, for these birds. It would be highly unlikely that they would really be flightless. Maybe not good at flying, but completely flightless, I don't know. We'll chat about that in a moment. And there we go. The last one. The 5th flightless redtail. Now, the flightless redtails do belong in our Nomad Highlands section of the Botanical Gardens. And you know what? I think this general area over here could be a good spot to actually place them down. We will need to place down some beds for them, but we'll probably be able to do that under this overhang over here. Now, being birds, I do think they need some kind of nesting material to actually build their nests, and we have got Vukah nesting material here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a few little spots around the base of this butte over here. We're just going to place down the nests of the flightless redtails all along the base of this limestone outcrop we've got over here. Right, so here's the thing. The flightless redtails here, first of all, it says they've got colourful feathers and a strong regal beak. Now, strong and regality of the beak doesn't really matter, but they are very colourful. And that to me says, well, I would have expected the males and the females to actually look different. In other words, there to be sexual dimorphism. However, there isn't. Meaning that there's a good chance then that they could in fact be monogamous, meaning one male and one female. The thing is that these flightless redtails here, they do live in family groups. We did see a flock of 5. So even though all 5 of them were adults, it's quite possible that we have a male and female doing the breeding in their family group, and then last year's siblings helping to raise this year's young. And we have a lot of birds actually doing that, where the little family groups stick together. In Australia, there's the white-winged chough that will do that. In South Africa, we've got the green woodhoopoe that will also do that, where this year's offspring will stay with the family to help raise the chicks born next year. So I think we've got a dominant male and female doing the breeding in this family group, and 3 helpers. And so to try and show that, I'm going to place down 2 nests, I think one over here and one over here. And we're going to take the Vukah nesting material and just kind of place that down around it to try and simulate a little nest having been constructed, or at least some twigs being placed down to try and form a little nest, basically. Likewise, here we've got the beds of the helpers here. We're just going to place down some sticks around it as well to try and simulate a little nest having been built. And there we go, we've got a little colony here of the flightless redtails, and I think it's looking quite nice. Initially, they were going to have their little home over here under this overhang, but as you can see, it's kind of turned into a lake, which is less than ideal. They are flightless, and unless they're penguins, they're probably not very good swimmers. So we're not going to do that to them. We're going to put them under the overhang over here. So let's do that, shall we? Here we go. The first flightless redtail in our little botanical gardens. That one is happy with its home, so that's perfect. Again, as we had with the June armadillos, bringing in the whole family, because we don't want to unnecessarily stress them and only remove part of the family. Let's rather remove the entire family and move them all together to our little botanical gardens here. I think they're going to be very happy right over here. They are safe from danger, they've got shelter, they've got food, everything is good. Now let's talk about flightlessness, because, well, to me it doesn't really make sense that the flightless redtail here is in fact flightless, because they are living in a very dangerous environment, and amongst other things there are saber-toothed cats there. So why on earth would they be flightless? Flightless birds, like for example ostriches, well, they're first of all very big in that case, and they're very quick runners. These guys are not fast. Like, yes, they are fast enough to try and outrun predators, but I have seen many a saber-toothed cat actually killing them. So for me it would make more sense that they are poor flyers, but they can actually fly if the need arises. And in fact, they do almost seem to have functional wings over there, so I don't know, I don't think they are completely flightless. Anyway, the marvelous little head crest we do see on these birds as well, most likely a way for adults to either show that, listen, I am an adult, so, you know, you can try and breed with me, or maybe it is just a way for males to attract females, or females to attract males, who knows. Look at that, the one is heading towards the nest there. That actually, it does seem to work quite nicely. Look at that, they're going on to their little nests. Oh yeah, I'm chuffed. I'm very, very chuffed. I'm very, very happy here. Now this does leave us with one more bird to get, and that is the round-billed sailor, I believe they are called. So maybe I can find some down below. They do seem to prefer the areas where you've got these yucca palms, these yucca, yeah, there you go, there are some there. Amongst the yucca, that's where you'll find them. So let's see. Oh, again, 3 of them in this area. That is perfect. We'll again translocate the entire family. Magnificent, splendid birds, these. And there we go. Our first round-billed sailor. Let's get 2 more, shall we? 2 down, 1 to go. Now these ones are very fast runners, the round-billed sailors, and you can see their very long legs there. That is the adaptation I would expect in a truly flightless bird. Now these birds here, the round-billed sailors, they remind me very much of 2 different types of birds. The first one being cranes, but they also remind me of bustards and other big game birds. Now those birds can fly. The secretary bird also very reminiscent of this. So cranes and secretary birds and the bustards, all of them can fly. A lot of them, however, just kind of prefer walking, because it uses less energy to walk than it does to fly. And that's something we'll chat about in windrows as well, with flightlessness of birds, things like the dodo, for example. It's more energy efficient to actually walk than to fly from point A to point B. So for me, these big birds, these round-billed sailors, it makes sense that they are flightless, and we'll chat again about that in a moment. Now in this case, the round-billed sailors occur largely in the Kindle waste, so we are going to put them in the Kindle waste section of our botanical gardens. We're just going to run up this little zigzag over here. Very steep slope, but there we go. We're just going to place them. I think we're just going to place the beds right over here in this little overhang. Now they are ground nesting birds, so we are going to place their beds just flat on the ground here. They do seem to be very social and like hanging around one another, so we are going to place the beds in very close proximity to one another, and that should be fine with them. Again, being birds that generally prefer not to fly, instead to run around, it does make sense that they would just, nest on the ground. And finally, time to introduce our round-billed sailors. And don't worry, your friend is on its way, and so to your third friend. There we go. Hello. Oh, absolutely stunning birds. Now, notice well-developed wings, so they most likely are capable of flying. It's just that they prefer not to. Now, look at them go. Very, very quick on their feet because of that long stride they have associated with those long legs. Hello there. Yes, they're beautiful. Now, interestingly enough, you've got a much more well-developed bill over here with the round-billed sailor than you have with the little flightless redtails. They've got a smaller little beak. And you may wonder, well, what are the closest living relatives of these round-billed sailors? And you know what? It took me a while to figure it out. And I've mentioned cranes, I've mentioned secretary birds, and I have mentioned the bustards as well. But these birds here have something that none of those birds have. They've got a strange little bit at the tip of their beak, and that is very reminiscent of the dodo's beak. You can see it in things like in games like Ark, and I'm sure you will see it in windrows as well when we look at the dodos in there. They've got a little section that looks a little bit stranger on the tip of their bill, that last little third of their bill, a little bit yellower in color here, but that is actually something you see with pigeons and doves with the Columbidae. So the round-billed sailor is actually a large, not really flightless, but almost flightless pigeon. And isn't that just strange? Well, that is something I did not expect. I really thought, because the coloration here reminds me very much of a lot of different crane species, and their mannerisms remind me very much of bustards and maybe even secretary birds. But the round-billed sailor here appears to be most closely related to doves and pigeons. And that's just strange. But why do they have these well-developed bills? Most likely because they are frugivorous. Most likely because they would be feeding on things like the yucca palm over here or the yucca fruit over here. And that is also very similar to dodos, which were also largely frugivorous, but also eating larger, harder seeds. So it's an adaptation for their diet. Well, that is just cool. Man, what a way to end the series for now. As I've mentioned, I'll be back, but it'll be a while. I'll be doing a bunch of stuff off screen and getting ready for full release later on. Now, next week I'll be back in Coral Island, and the week thereafter, as has been requested in quite a few comments on my videos, something is rising on the beach. But the week thereafter, we're going to do our first episode in Windrose, so a bit of a pirate theme then. And we'll be talking about island biogeography, and we'll be talking about dodos and all kinds of weird and wonderful things. And at the same time, we'll be taking out a whole bunch of pirates, while being pirates ourselves. So if you've got any comments or questions, please pop them down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a nice thumbs up to let the algorithm know that this was a good video to watch. And until next time, everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Cheers.